Did you know that nearly every discussion of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is missing an essential piece of the pyramid? It's true, and today we're going to restore that piece. On top of that, we're going to dive deep into how you can fulfill each tier in the cognitive need pyramid in your life. And you're going to help yourself remember each of the needs by discovering some memory techniques that will help you do that. That way, as you're working on improving your life, helping improve the lives of others, you'll be doing so by rapidly accessing an accurate mental database that not only has the cognitive needs and its pyramid in memory, but it'll also come with examples of the psychological needs, and that's what's going to help you be able to fulfill your full potential. This is Dr. Anthony Metivier. Welcome to the Magnetic Memory Method podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't already. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up and visit me at magneticmerrymethod.com for my free memory improvement course if you haven't already gone through it, or just come to the site and dive directly into the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass if you're ready to fulfill your need for reliable memory skills and experience the sharp and focused thinking that comes along with having an improved memory. Literally being smarter. Not smart as if you finished the goal, but always becoming smarter and smarter and smarter yet. You know, I get a lot of questions about becoming smarter, and I don't know about you, but I'm smart enough to get by, but I always want to get smarter and smarter and smarter, and that's why I've produced a new book called Smarter, and it's something really special. I've created an early notification list that has a new training. So if you go to magneticmerrymethod.com/SM, you'll get a sample chapter from Smarter and a training called the Double Alphabet. Now, this Double Alphabet training is really, really cool because it is going to teach you a way to create mnemonic associations faster when you're using memory techniques. The way I teach this is literally going to help you make associations for placing information in memory palaces that'll happen as automatically as you know how to use a fork and knife or ride a bike. But you know, a lot of people struggle with memory skills because they're not taught to use memory palaces and associations correctly. And this robs them of the feeling of accomplishment they could have each and every day when they're committing information to memory. So again, this is a preview chapter of my forthcoming book, Smarter, and you get the Double Alphabet training at magneticmemoryMethod.com/SM. SM is short for Smarter. Okay, so what are cognitive needs? Well, as the term cognitive needs suggests, we have cognitive awareness of things that we want and need from life, like continually getting smarter. Now, we're not the only species that has such awareness, but our cognitive abilities are so developed that we seem to be especially sensitive to the needs that we have and the needs that we don't have, because we see that other people have them and our brains start to want what we don't have. And Abraham Maslow got very interested in humanity's special sensitivity to the human requirements, and this led him to developing the hierarchy of needs. And often you see Maslow's needs placed within a pyramid, and the wider needs are basic. As you move up the pyramid, and then you get closer and closer to very, very specific psychological needs that need fulfilling in much more specific ways. So altogether, the needs in the basic pyramid are these: physiological needs like food, water, warmth, and rest. Safety needs like security, safety, predictability. You have a need for belongingness and love, which includes things like friendships, but also intimate relationships like you might have in a marriage. Then you have esteem needs like the need for prestige, a sense of accomplishment, or continually getting smarter as you learn more and more information. And then you have self-actualization, which is creativity, fulfilling your potential. And this is really where the standard hierarchy of needs stops. We're going to go further, though. Now, it's important to know that this actually happened in history, in time. Maslow first presented these needs in a paper titled A Theory of Human Motivation. He worked on it over and over and over again throughout his life, but also many, many other psychologists and sociologists and people in different professions also commented on it, and it became a big, big phenomenon because it is a crisp, clear diagram and mental model for how humans operate in order to develop over time. So Let's solve the problem with the pyramid of needs as we move towards patching in the one missing need that Maslow wasn't able to really talk about in any depth before he died. One mistake that people sometimes make is thinking that you can move up the pyramid and leave the earlier needs behind, but this isn't the case. You always need to balance the needs, which is why there's an alternative dynamic visualization that is a little bit different than the pyramid, and it can help you understand Maslow's hierarchy as something that plays out over time. And I think that's really, really important to see it that way. You can also think about the hierarchy of needs in terms of a circle. Now, a friend of mine named Arthur Worsley, he used the Wheel of Life format in his Faster to Master Traction Planner. And in this case, the needs are modernized in a kind of wheel of life that have things like health and vitality, thoughts and emotions, family and friends, love and partnerships, productivity, growth and learning, business and career, and so forth. So probably you can already see productivity and performance are basically the same as Maslow's original esteem needs, or they map onto that category. The truth is that there's no perfect way to visualize the hierarchy. You need to think about yourself and your own ways of consuming information, and you could redraw it for yourself. So find a model that works for you or create your own. The idea being that there are categories of needs that you have, bring balance to them, and don't ever think that you're going to let go of the basic needs. You still need to fulfill all the needs as you progress up the hierarchy. And in that sense, it's really not a hierarchy at all. Now, what about this missing cognitive need? Well, as great as Maslow's original hierarchy can be, as cool as it is that it went as viral as it did, he ultimately wasn't happy with it. And it may be that he wasn't happy with it because some people thought the wrong thing. They thought that because it's a hierarchy, you got to leave the basic stuff behind and then you could just enjoy the top level stuff. But that's not really how it works. Towards the end of his career, he wrote The Farther Reaches of Human Nature. And this is a very fascinating book. In it, he described a very special cognitive need he called SelfTranscendence. Now, this is something that I've talked about quite a bit in my work that I often refer to as karma yoga. And we've talked about it in our podcast episode, Mental Strength, for example. And the idea with karma yoga is that you ultimately put aside your needs as much as possible, if not entirely, if you can, because, there is a small subset of people who, through investments or their business or what have you, they basically don't have to worry that much about the basic needs. They have to in terms of keeping up their health. Of course, you'd get very, very unhealthy if you didn't have food and water. But those things become less and less part of their mental concern, and they can then do experiments and let go of the outcomes of their experiments as they do virtuous things through charitable works or what have you, or even indeed investing in new businesses. But one of the things about being self-actualized is that you don't get hung up in so many thoughts and worries and concerns about this, that, and the other thing. You just run the experiments and you let go of the outcomes. And this is really, really important. In our world of memory, Giordano Bruno described a kind of non-dual experience where you would experience oneness with the entire universe through working with memory, working with knowledge. And it is like you just simply have let go of the need for any particular outcome. You're just going with the flow. Now, I know that sounds weird, and it may raise your skeptical hackles that even a psychologist like Maslow would suggest such things. But here's Maslow in his own words from The Farther Reaches of Human Nature. Transcendence refers to the very highest and most inclusive or holistic levels of human consciousness, behavior, and learning as ends rather than means to oneself, to significant others, to human beings in general, to other species, to nature, and to the cosmos. I myself have suggested something similar to this in my book, The Victorious Mind. Fulfilling the cognitive need to give to others without expectation of return is hard. Make no mistake, it's challenging. But this idea of karma yoga, allowing things to play out and return to you if they do and not return to you if you don't, yoga just simply means contact. So making contact with that practice of just giving without expectation of reward, this is more fulfilling than I ever imagined possible. Challenging, yes, but one of the reasons why it's so fulfilling is precisely because it's challenging. So I recommend that you fit this into your life as soon as you can. It's highly recommended. Now, why is this all so important? Well, because we're all together on this planet. No matter where you are in life, we are on the same ship floating through space. And that's the ultimate reason why you really want to spend time every week working on your own personal hierarchy or wheel of life. And the more people who self-transcend, the better it's going to be for everyone. Now, let's take another example. The reason you want to make sure you fulfilled every example of physiological needs specifically comes down to your ability to learn faster, focus, and remember things. But you can't do that if you're clogging your mind with foods that destroy your memory and create brain fog. And the same goes for your career, your study needs, your family, your personal rituals around sleep, meditation, and the quality of your memory. So the good thing is that if you start working with your memory first, you'll be able to better remember to focus on all the other parts of the hierarchy of needs. So with that in mind, let's talk about memorizing these needs, and you would use a memory palace, which itself is very, very satisfying. The best technique that I've found for getting all these cognitive need categories into memory is the memory palace technique. So let's say that we're going to just memorize Maslow's original hierarchy. All you have to do is memorize it and mentally layer it in a wall in the room of your house, or you could use a wall in your school, a wall where you work. And just look at the diagram on the screen. And if you're listening, just imagine this in your mind. You have a wall and you place the pyramid on the wall and you give your mind an anchor point so you can refer back to this anchor point every time you want to recall the tier. So looking at physiological needs, for example, a sticky image for that might be your doctor, your physician. And you could place an image on that tier, on that area of the wall where you've placed the pyramid. And if you go up to safety, well, you could place an image of your bank safe in that area. And then for belongingness, you could have Beyonce belonging to you as a Beyonce toy. And then you can go up to esteem, and you can think of whatever you're going to come up with for ES, like Encino Man, for example, that movie. Did you ever see that? Then move up to self-actualization and so forth. And there you might give yourself a hug, something like that, in that specific area on the wall in your memory palace where you've projected the hierarchy pyramid. So I'm so glad that I personally took the time to really understand Maslow's formula, to go deeper into his work and find out about self-transcendence. And, he just mentioned it in this final book, but that mention alone stimulates thoughts. I hope that, as I've made clear, that it's just important to know that there are multiple versions, to experiment with multiple versions, and even if you find one that feels right, I suggest that you continue to study this concept of fulfilling your cognitive needs, learning the words that are involved around cognitive needs, and then continuing to learn and experiment some more. Why stop? It's so much more fulfilling and powerful to continue experimenting and experimenting and experimenting over time. Many cultures have interesting variations that you could also come across if you continue to study. In the Indian tradition, the Chinese and Asian traditions, the Native American traditions, they're very, very powerful. Tyson Yunkaporta has been on the Magnetic Memory Method podcast where we talked about using the hand as a memory palace, and that had a kind of hierarchy of how to communicate with other people in meetings where you have really, really consequential decisions that you need to make. It is really powerful, and all the more so when you use it to become selfless as possible. And I work on this even though it's hard, because that is my goal, to be as selfless as possible, to be able to grow in being selfless. And that hardness thing is not a barrier to me at all. I often think of a Howard Barker line that I memorized once upon a time: because it is hard, I feel honored. And not everyone agrees that humans need to take on challenging projects in order to feel fulfilled, but it certainly worked for me. And one of those projects is the Magnetic Memory Method podcast, to give as much knowledge away about memory, about things related to memory, such as cognitive needs. And I would say that fulfilling your cognitive needs starts with memory. You have to remember what the needs are, and you have to remember to do the things that help you fulfill them. And the trick is that even though I give away so much for free, is it really free? Well, yes, but it does cost your time, your attention, your focus, and your energy, and you may at times find it hard. There's a paradox that I sometimes encounter. I've told people, like some of my private clients, in the same sentence sometimes. I'll say, memory techniques are so fun and fulfilling every time I use them, and then later I'll say, but it's challenging sometimes to get myself even to use them. And that is true. Two things can be true at the same time without contradiction. In logic, you call that dialetheism or paraconsistencies. The idea that two things can be true without contradiction. I want another coffee today. I've already had one, but I also don't want another coffee. They're both true. Anyway, the idea of something being both hard and fulfilling because it is hard can sound illogical, but I think it is one of the core aspects of humanity that we absolutely must embrace. So, complete the exercises and you will emerge with a memory system that allows you to learn faster and remember more and will give you the fulfillment of the need to remember. Because that ultimately is something, if Abraham Maslow was here with us today, I think he would say, Anthony, you're right. We need another cognitive need, and that is memory, and it is at every single tier on the pyramid of needs. And you get more and more fulfillment because you get that esteem, that sense of accomplishment all along the way when you memorize new things, when you apply those things in your life because you remember to focus on the activities that really matter. So what do you say? Are you ready to get out there and make the cognitive needs your own by committing them to heart and practicing fulfilling each and every one, including the lost tier of transcendence and the new tier of memory itself that we're adding today? I wish you a great, great journey and hope to meet you sometime and place along the way to getting all of your cognitive needs fulfilled. And remember, one of the biggest needs we have is to never rest on the idea that we're smart enough, but to always continually get smarter. So if you'd like a sample chapter from Smarter and my new double alphabet training, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/SM. And this is going to fulfill your need to make associations faster so you can remember more for the long term, just like we talked about today.